Hey, everybody. This is the iPhoneography podcast. My name is Greg McMillan, and we're back. We missed the show 2 weeks ago because Dwight and I were under the weather, and I don't think either one of us are back to 100% yet, but we're at least able to do this. So here we are. So this is going to be a bit of a different show for YouTube and the audio side of it. The YouTube show will be everything, and the audio will be most of it, except for the stuff that doesn't make sense to put in audio. And you'll see what I mean when we get to it, because it's going to be basically video related. So it's going to be kind of two separate shows, but combined. But anyway, what I will do is I will bring in Mr. Dave Podner. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Greg. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going not too bad. You had a run on the weekend, so have you recuperated?
Sort of. My lower body, fine. I was going into the race with a little bit of a sore shoulder, slept on it wrong.
Oh.
Around 3 miles in, I got a sharp pain right here in the shoulder, right in the front. A sharp stabbing pain that lasted the last 7 miles. So anytime, if anyone's ever experienced pain on around their chest, any pain up there makes it hard to breathe.
Yeah.
Because your muscle just go, eh. And went to urgent care after the run. And they said I had tendonitis in my bicep tendon.
Oh, really?
So somehow maybe I was putting something in the back of the car or repetitive motion, but my tendon in the front here just got inflamed. They said, take some NSAIDs, here are some exercises, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, the older we get, the easier it is to injure ourselves.
Oh, it is. But the race was wonderful. If you follow me on social media, I posted a slideshow, pictures I took on the course. It was a beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous day.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beautiful days, Mr. Dwight Broman, you seem
Hey guys, hey gentlemen, how you doing?
You seem to have a lot of beautiful days down where you are.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Although I just got injured when Dave said he got injured on his last 7 miles. I got injured thinking about 7 miles, just sitting here. So I usually only run to the refrigerator and from the police, and then and pickleball. So,
oh yeah.
Great to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, good to see everybody. Like I said, you and I we're not 100% yet, as you can tell with my voice. I work in a very loud environment, and I worked, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and in order to hear anybody, we have to yell. So my voice wasn't so bad Thursday, but then when I went back to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this is the result. So, but anyway, nothing's going to shut me up. Anyway, so we got a few things to talk about tonight. One of them is, so when I first wanted to have Dwight on the show, even before he was a co-host, I wanted to have him on to talk about his workflow. So when I mentioned in the intro that the show's going to be kind of a weird one, we're going to have Dwight do a workflow, a shows how to do a process a raw file, and that's going to be video oriented. So that is not going to be in the audio, but in the show notes there will be a link to the YouTube video where you can watch, Dwight do his presentation, and it's I think it's going to be really interesting. So if you've never edited a raw file that you took with your iPhone, now Dwight does his editing stuff on the desktop. So, this is I'd say a little bit of an advanced procedure, or process, but really good to know, because if you've ever thought you might want to do it, at least you'll see what you'll be getting into. But before we do all that, for the audio side of it, which will, be released on Wednesday morning, we got some news about a very popular editing program, a company called Pixelmator, and they are being purchased by Apple. So I think this is really good for them because of all the editing apps out there, the Photomator, okay, so Pixelmator does Pixelmator Pro on the desktop. They have an iPhone, probably iPad too. I don't have an iPad, so I can't say, but there's Pixelmator, the app that you can use to create, vector stuff and layer and all this stuff on the iPhone. But they also have Photomator, and all of these apps, especially Photomator, the way they've built it, it almost looks like a native Apple app. So this is all going to just fit so well in the Apple ecosystem. And I think it's a good move. Do you guys have any initial thoughts on this news as all?
Yeah, I mean, I have Pixelmator and I have a Pixelmator Pro on the iPad. I'm looking right now, and I think Pixelmator does live on the iPad. However, it's not opening, so I don't know if it's something that's maybe gone by the wayside. But yeah, I think it's still here. I think Pixelmator's on the iPad. When this was first announced, Greg, I immediately went back and looked at the notes and actually did a couple edits in there. And it's a great program. And I also looked at their roadmap, which is very interesting. I wouldn't use it as an everyday editor because of the fact that it doesn't have the luminosity masks, which you'll all see in a little bit as to why I think those are very important. However, luminosity masks are on their roadmap. So, at that point, I'll really be taking a hard look at that and seeing how I can incorporate that into a workflow. And I think it's really nice because it's a one-time fee, not a subscription, which I think will appeal to a lot of people, assuming that Apple doesn't put a paywall behind it.
Yeah, like it can be a one-time fee. I think they do have subscription pricing.
They do.
In fact, I stumbled upon this a video. I forget the guy's channel, but he is going to be doing basically a complete course on Photomator. And I watched the first video, which was basically an introduction to the app. And when he showed it in the App Store, there's different pricing, and you can get a free 7-day trial. So if you've never used Pixelmator or Photomator, sorry, if you've never used Photomator, go ahead and download it. I'll put a link in the show notes for the app and do the 7-day free trial. I believe you get access to everything in it. And then if you want to try it a little bit longer, like this guy in this video suggested, you can just go for a 1-month subscription for something like $8 or $9, I think, and give it a whirl. And I bought it completely outright from on the App Store about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. I paid the full price, and it was probably on for half price at the time. So it was a pretty good deal. And so now what happens with once Apple gets it? What happens then? I don't know. Like, are they going to make me resubscribe, or are they going to make me repurchase it, or what are they going to do? I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll make the darn thing free for everybody. I don't know, but we'll have to see. But I mean, it's a really good it's a really good editor, and is very much like Photos, like the editing suite in Photos, but with a lot more. Dave, have you tried Photomator at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do use it. In fact, a lot of times with editing photos, it's between that and Adobe Lightroom Mobile. I do think Adobe does a better job when they're a high contrast, like you're shooting a very, a heavily backlit scene. Adobe will do a better job with pulling out the colors. But I like the fact that with Photomator, you don't have to import a photo and then export it and have 2 copies. Like you said, I like some of the things a little bit better. I like Adobe somewhat a little bit better because of what it can do, but it's a good program. And I remember I bought it a while back when it first came out, when you just paid the money before they had a subscription plan. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I can see Apple either doing what they did to Dark Sky, where you remember when they bought the Dark Sky weather app, they just said, we're canceling the app and it's just going to be part of our system. So, like I said, I could see them saying, we're just making this part of Photos, or they could have an Adobe competitor. But if it's an Adobe competitor, it's going to be a subscription. I think it's definitely just like Logic Pro for Logic Tools Pros for the audio and the video editor. Their Pro Tools are paid. They don't give that part away for free. The basic one, iMovie's free, GarageBand's free, but the next step is paid. So I could see them making this their higher end photo editor. If you want simple, you do Photos. If you want, layers, more things going on, we have, I don't know if they're going to bring back the Aperture name. I know that would make a lot of people happy, but
yeah, they've got Pixelmator Pro on the desktop, and I think maybe the iPad too. Like I said, I wish I had an iPad because I don't know the iPad stuff, but like you said, for the heavy editing and the more pro style editing, Pixelmator Pro is really good for that. And it's also good for like illustrating and different things like that too. But when it comes to just editing photos on the phone, say, that's where Photomator shines. But Photomator is on the desktop as well. Mm-hmm. And so I think they could go one of 2 ways with this. One, they could keep it basically the way it is. I think the Pixelmator app on the iPhone will probably be gone. I think it'll be incorporated into, something else. But I think, so it could either stay the way it is or and when I say stay the way it is, I guess I should say maybe they'll incorporate it into the Photos editing app. Or the other way it could go is they could bring an app out, something like Aperture. I don't know if they would call it that again. It'd be cool if they did. But they might combine everything that Photomator and Pixelmator Pro have and make because they've got iMovie, but they got Final Cut Pro. They've got GarageBand, but they got Logic Pro. They've got Photos. Maybe they'll have a Pro version of that. And I think that's the way it's going to go if I was to bet a lunch on it. I think it would be cool. Hopefully they wouldn't charge like a couple $100 for it like they do with these other pro rated apps that they have. But I mean, who knows? I see Luke in the chat room says, Dwight, can you share with us a link to the Pixelmator or the Pixelmator roadmap? I don't see it anymore on their site.
I'm not in the chat. Now, if I hit log in up there, am I going to leave this screen? That's what I'm afraid of. If you go to pixelmator.com, there's a link at the top that says roadmap.
Yeah. You know what? I'll go there and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. And then a couple comments on that, Greg. I think the YouTube channel you're talking about is Joseph Slinker.
Yes, that's the guy.
Joseph Slinker. So he's made
tutorials.
Yeah, he's made the transition from the Adobe ecosystem, and Pixelmator Pro he's using as a substitute for Photoshop. And a lot of people are using that as a substitute for Photoshop.
So, there's things that Pixelmator Pro is good for. I mean, a lot of it is good. Same with on the iPhone, Photomator is really good. But there's just some things that aren't there. Like like you said, luminosity masking. I mean, you could do layers on Photomator, and masking. You could pick a subject mask, all that stuff, and it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's non-destructive too.
There's a healing tool, which is really good for removing things out of like a picture, kind of like the cleanup that Photos has now. But okay, here's the difference. Lightroom has hundreds of engineers working on that thing and has for years. Something like Photomator or the Pixelmator stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people they have in their organization, but I'll bet you it's nothing near that Lightroom has at Adobe.
Yeah, I would agree. So, and what's neat about that is you can import your own LUTs as well, your lookup tables in there. That's really kind of neat.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff. At this point, Pixelmator is saying that nothing is going to change so far with their apps. Like I say, I don't know what is going to become of it all, but I don't think like Apple's not buying this company to put it away. They are definitely going to do something with it, and it just remains to be seen what that is. So, I guess we'll see, because they bought other companies. Like they bought, I forget what it was called, but they bought a company that became Shortcuts. And, so I think what you're going to see is you're going to see, say Photomator and then a pro rated, or Photos rather, and then a professional grade editing suite on the Mac. That's my guess.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And
real quick, I noticed I for the Photomator roadmap here, they do mention dehaze adjustment. So that is the one thing I think they're missing too, is because I use dehaze so much in Lightroom Mobile.
Yeah.
It's one of those magic tools, if you will.
Yeah.
That can fix so much. They have a clarity, but they don't have a dehaze.
They don't have a dehaze, right?
Yeah.
And
now whether
it's indispensable at times.
Yeah. Now whether that means any future work they're just gonna kill and wait for Apple to tell them what to do. So we'll see. But if Apple could take, let's say, Photomator and take some of those things and bump them down to the Photos app, like literally bring the dehaze setting in. Mm-hmm. And this is something we've been asking for Apple for a while, saying we understand the 90-90 rule. Most people want a camera app where you open it up, you hit the button, you take the picture. But just like with the calculator, they have a basic and a scientific. And you do have to turn the scientific on, and then it gets a lot more complicated. Mm-hmm. Give us a basic and a advanced professional, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Camera app where you can click all of a sudden and then you have all the features. But for most people by default, it's going to be on simple.
Yep.
Or editing, make it where the edits are simple. But if you want to do a dehaze or mask, because they were talking about bringing depth and luminance mask, that would be great.
Darkroom has those.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I use Darkroom, I use Photomator, I use Lightroom Mobile. A lot of times it's just whatever one I feel like using at the time. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, but if there's something that if I'm doing something that I know this app has and those two don't, well, then that's the app I go to. Anyway, so it's that's good news for Pixelmator. I guess we'll just see what happens to it. And to segue into further editing, we're going to jump to our video only segment. So audio listeners, if you want to see and you have to see it. You can't just hear it. So I'm going to cut it out of the podcast on the audio version. But if you want to see what we're going to be talking about here now, there's a link in the show notes for the YouTube video. Go ahead and go there, and you'll be able to see what Dwight is going to show us here. If you checked out the YouTube video to watch Dwight's workflow, we do hope you enjoyed it, and I apologize for any audio imperfections in the YouTube video. We're definitely going to be working on the audio of the program. We'll now pick up to the point where Dwight just finished his demonstration, and we discuss it just a little bit. What do you think, Dave? I don't imagine you're going to be shooting RAW too much. But just,
no,
just as someone, who's probably never really done it that much, what do you think of the whole process?
I mean, it's exceptionally detailed. Dwight is, and I know this is coming from familiarity with software, the ability to know where you're going next. And I think that's something that overwhelms people when they go to Lightroom or Photoshop, is that you open the screen and you have this here and all these panels and everything else, and it can go overwhelming. It also tells you why they can't do a 1-for-1 port of the desktop app to mobile. Because if you look how the desktop app was set up, there's no way you can make that just touch by just porting it out. You have to do keep the behind the scenes technology the same, but you would have to do a completely rewrite user interface from scratch, thinking touch first and taking out so much stuff probably. Right. That's why the mobile version, there's a lot of times it doesn't have the equivalence with the desktop because you can't. I mean, like you said, if you're using an iMac, they're 24.5 inches, and even the largest iPad is a little more than 13. So you still don't have the touch points, the size, the ability to put everything on screen you need to put on screen. Right. So that is just a huge difference there. But like we also said, it's just like shooting RAW isn't for everyone. Doing all these additional edits may not be for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one thing to know is if you're not shooting in RAW and you're not going through all these extra steps, you're not going to get the same photo by just shooting in JPEG or HEIF and doing basic adjustments in photos. Your photos will not look the same. Not saying one's better or worse, but like when people compare professional photographers who have the giant cameras with the giant zooms, and they say, well, I have a camera and it's a prosumer model. Why can't I take photos like that? Well, one is skill the photographer, but two, there is a difference in now with iPhones, it's not a difference in the camera, but it's a difference in maybe the software and the skill in using that software.
Right. Yeah. And I rushed through that. If I really kind of did it properly and we had more time, you start with a raw image. You always want to bring balance and contrast in. That's the first step. And then the second step is you analyze your image and you start thinking about, and you may look at it for 10, 15 minutes. What do I need to do next? Mm-hmm. So it's not like a set recipe that you go through. You look at your image and you say, you know what? That tonal value is too low. That one's too high. I need to burn that. Because the dynamic range on a raw photo, it's not processed, and I'm not bracketing my photos at different exposures. So you have to sometimes, you have to work with what you have, analyze the scene, and then take appropriate action from there. And that's the art of it, which I enjoy.
Yeah, and Will's mentioning in chat that his notebook is getting old and a bit iffy, and instead of investing in a new laptop or You really can't update a laptop or really almost any computer anymore. But thinking about the future, I'm contemplating abandoning it and just living in an iPhone and iPad world. So desktop, Lightroom, etc., could be dead ends for 'em. Which,
Yeah, I mean and Greg, this is probably another podcast, but I've been successful in Pro Raw with specific presets. That there are things that can help that image, and they come out pretty darn good with a preset. And that's one of the gentlemen I think I put in there, Greg, for possibly a future show to have a chat with. So, there's hope, even if you take that path.
Yeah. Well, it's like I say, it's not going to be for everybody, this type of workflow, but, it's definitely worth considering, looking down that raw rabbit hole if you want to really take control over how your image transforms from capture to output. And I think you have more knowledge of that, Dwight, in the short time that you've been doing this than I do. I mean, I've been shooting raw images for years and years and years, but my workflow is very, very simplified. And it's to the point now where when you mentioned the photographic styles, I'm starting to shoot a little bit more HEIF images because I can use those photographic styles, and it's just amazing to me what that the adjustments are that you could do on the fly. You can change. I mean, we're going to do an episode about this, but and you can change the look of it before you even take the shot, so you know what you're going to get, which is pretty crazy to me.
You can change the tone, color, and strength of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, well, thank you for that very interesting demo. It's definitely, it's definitely for, I would say, for more advanced users, but it's also good food for thought for those who have never done it and are thinking about maybe diving into something like that. So,
just remember, I knew nothing about Photoshop a year ago. I learned the basics, and then I started watching these videos, and I just said, I've got to learn this stuff. So, watching the videos is what's gotten me to where I am today in practice.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, we'll move on to our recent photos. I don't know about you guys, but and as you know, okay, a little inside baseball here. I just picked my two photos to talk about just before we went out. I mean, I'm talking within a minute of going on live tonight. And because I've been so consumed with, there's a lot of videos about photographic styles and all this other stuff, and with work and on the weekend and everything else, and the fact that I wasn't feeling good, and think, just life has just been a challenge for me, a little bit recently. So I finally got them selected. And of course, we do our recent photos, which is generally something taken within the last 2 weeks or so, since the last podcast. But this time we've had a month to look at. And of course, being fall or autumn up here in the Northern Hemisphere, that's my favorite time of year to shoot. And it was hard to pick two pictures. So I just picked two kind of quickly. But so what we're going to do is we're going to start, we're going to go through your two first, Dwight, and then we'll do Dave's, and then we'll finish off with mine. So I will bring them up, and we'll start with this one.
This is Aliso Beach, which is a beach in Laguna Beach, California. I went down early in the morning. This is actually a pro raw shot. You can kind of tell by the water. It's sharp. You can tell that it's been sharpened, by the machine learning. If you look kind of along where the shoreline is, you see a bunch of dots. Those are birds. But what really drew me to this photo was the fog kind of rolling out from the hills, and I liked how the point there was shrouded in fog. And I kept it kind of at a minimalist edit, And that's about it.
Yeah, I love the way the fog, the sunlight's going through the fog, um, breaking it up, and you can see the streaks in that and the rays. Um, that's just something that I don't get around here too much. If it's foggy here, it's just foggy.
Yeah.
It's not very often we get good light with it. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, and honestly, now this may be the compression of the screen, but it almost looks like the fog's in two layers. You have the kind of the brighter layer in the front, and then behind it, I don't know if those are clouds or a further out fog.
Yeah, those are clouds.
Okay.
Those are clouds off in the horizon, and the sun is in the upper left rising over the hill. So that's why the top of it, I think, is a little bit brighter and coming over, kind of coming over the top of it. But yeah, those clouds in the back are in the sky. They're not falling.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely gives a nice layer going on, because I've been in places where you're on top of one hill and there's a valley between you and the fog is right just in the valley, but it just stays at a certain level. So you're above it, the hill across from you moves above it, and the valley below is just completely packed in fog.
Right.
And where, like you said, it's instead of just having general fog, like Greg gets, and I get mostly you just get fog, having like almost this spot fog, where it's like there. The fog is there. I'm here. It's there.
Yeah.
There's a hard, And honestly, it when I first looked at it and before you said fog, I was thinking either rain or some kind of mist from like the water hitting the beach, from like a big wave or something, and the mist just kind of hitting through. Yeah, especially like you said, with the light going through the fog in the foreground there.
Yeah, this is a very famous skimboarding beach. Behind me is the house of where Arnold Klein lived, who was Michael Jackson's dermatologist.
Oh yeah,
right behind me. So yeah, it's an interesting area, beautiful area. So that's that one.
Cool. So your next one, this is really interesting.
Yeah, so this one, I actually won a Mobiography award on this one, and I just wanted to showcase some of the stuff that I like to do. I think we had one a couple weeks ago, Greg, but I captured a photo of this Asian gal walking across a boardwalk in Laguna, broad daylight, and I brought it into one of my apps and painting apps, and I turned it into sort of a painting. And if you see off to the right there's scribbles. That was captured in another scene where there's lights. So that was intentional camera movement, and I got light trails. So I essentially just made her kind of painterly with brush strokes. Brought in same with the trees, and I brought in different textures, including the light trails, and I just worked with it until it looked where I wanted it. So yeah, this was a runner-up in Mobiography for the abstract. So I guess this is kind of a testament that I enjoy art. And maybe that's why I like the detailed process of processing raw photos. So I have a tendency to be detail oriented when it comes to this kind of stuff. I was a CAD designer for many years, so I was always focusing, on the details. But this is kind of a cool outlet for me.
Kind of up your alley a bit, Dave. I think with the creativity and the use of different things and different apps.
Yeah, I mean, my apps are a little more basic than these, but trying to make it look, like you said, make it look like a painting, make it a little more abstract, and just the texture, it almost looks like you can see the brush strokes.
Yeah, I used probably 5 or 6 apps on this thing, and I think one of them was MetaBrush, where you can actually create brush strokes out of the colors in your photograph. So yeah, and as opposed to pushing a button and then it just makes it something, I intentionally do something within a specific color.
Mm-hmm.
I often see images like this done more, with a more pastel or lighter tones, almost like a watercolor. But this has some really harsh contrast to it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I wanted to be mysterious, and the title of it is "Walking into a Light Storm."
Oh yeah, yeah, that's creative. Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool.
Thank you.
So now, Dave, we're going to hit on to your first one, which is, here's an artistic piece again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was actually taken a couple weeks ago. This was the Lemieux run, and part of the run goes through an area which are a bunch of old warehouses. So you have we're running right into the sunrise. So you get the nice shadows going along there, and this old brick warehouse to your left, and you can see the retaining wall to your right. So you're kind of it's not a tunnel per se, but you kind of get the enclosed feeling. And this, I believe, was Picasso and Visionist that I used. Visionist because I kind of like it has a bluish color, and it kind of gives the extra texture that isn't like a straight texture like to the building. So you can see it has that kind of brushstroke look to it. It adds instead of having a brick pattern. And just you can see like the sky straight ahead because, shooting right into the sun, it has issues. So that makes a difference in terms of having the little squiggles in the sky for the little extra texture. And of course, our favorite, the iPhone glare, which is on the road.
Oh, okay.
Luckily, because of the coloration, you don't see the green of the glare. It only looks like a light spot in the middle there. So it doesn't look as bad, but it is there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's cool. I think that light spot is cool. It kind of your eye gets kind of drawn to it and makes you wonder, what she's stepping in. Is that a laser shot out of that tree? What's going on here?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool. I have always liked the the textured look of these kind of like brush strokes and things like that. And my biggest downfall is I don't play around with them enough. So I'm always inspired when I see one of your pieces, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
Yeah, I have Picasso. Sometimes I'll do a transformation like this, then I'll bring it into another app and use it as a layer, and then mask in the pieces that I want. So it may be a black mask and then on the top, and then I just paint in maybe I'll just paint in that blue or something into my photograph, into my art. But no, that's good.
Yeah. So your second one, Dave, this is really neat.
Yeah, this was just a very clear sky. We've had low humidity around here, exceptionally low. So it's easier to get these clear shots where we should be having a lot more rain and a lot more moisture in the air. So the reflection, the river was, the river was running very slow, very smooth, easy to get the reflection. I did do editing on Photoshop for the dehaze to bring out the reflection a little bit more and to maybe boost the colors. This was just kind of you can see they got some reds there, a little bit of greens. This was just when we were getting with colors. Right now, if you look around, there's a lot of kind of burnt oranges left. There's hardly any green, and there's a good amount of empty trees around. So this was a little bit ago where maybe a week or so ago when we still had a little bit of color left, and the sky was just really nicely blue with just a little bit of clouds there.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's stick season now.
We're pretty close. Yeah.
It is here anyway. Yeah. You know,
What
I
stick
love
season?
the
I'm
stick
assuming
seasons when all
no
the leaves are
leaves.
gone off the trees.
hmm
That'd be nice. That'd be fun to have a stick season down here.
You don't want stick season.
Well, you know, I put it this way: you can get some really nice shots when you have a bunch of bare trees. Especially if you get a little bit of snow where you have the contrast. But after a while, it can get. I mean, the term seasonal depression, it's a real thing. You know, when you go out and you see everything's brown, and especially when it's overcast, so you have gray sky, brown kind of all the way around, and the grass is dead. So it's either covered with a little bit of snow or it's brown and crunchy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, you can do, it is you can make interesting there, but it's not as, things don't stick out as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice photo.
Oh, thank you.
And just before we get any further, Will said Dwight's sea fog image was awesome.
Oh, thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Comments there now.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Okay, so my first one, this is not a piece of digital art. It's so there's a waterfall, a local waterfall where there's a bridge that goes over the river that eventually goes down to the fall. Like there's a dam, and then part of the river, and then the waterfall goes over the escarpment, the Niagara Escarpment. And on the bridge, there's two parts. There's a wide part that's just wooden planks that most people walk over, but there's also a steel grated part that you can actually see right down to the water. And in between the two, there's a gap about, I don't know, almost a foot. I tried to take about a half-second exposure. And, I just composed it kind of the way I wanted to, held on for dear life, and I took the shot. And, I think as far as editing goes, I might have, you know what? I might have used the Moment Pro camera app because I had the Moment polarizer on there to be able to see through the water and capture the leaves down under the water, the surface of the water. So yeah, it would have been the Moment Pro camera app, and just like a quarter second, half second, whatever exposure. I'm looking for it as I mumble away here to see if I can find out what it was exactly.
Yeah, Greg, when I first saw this, I thought it was a digital abstract. Nevertheless, this would go right into my textures folder because I can definitely use this as some type of overlay in some of my work.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to it. It's when I shoot moving water like this, sometimes I'll let it go for 10 seconds to get a nice silky look or whatever. But I also like to go about a half a second just to get the fact that it's moving, but yet it's not, full blown flowing.
It's crazy that blue object in the middle to me looks like a gentleman walking with a blue sweater on. He's got a computer under his left arm. He's got a red tie on, and his face is kind of covered by the curtain of water on the top. Do you see that? He's walking from right to left.
Right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do see it a little bit.
His mouth's open. See that? So what I would do is I'd take that into like Procreate and I'd draw some legs on it.
Oh, yeah.
No, that looks like a guy with a suit walking with a bow tie. With a computer under his arm with the shadows. It's crazy.
Well,
that's
like I see this as being the legs.
That's his arm. That blue on the right is his arm wrapped around the dark object is the briefcase.
Okay, yeah, okay. I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's nuts.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Dave, do you see it?
I have to say, I
You
don't
guys are
see it.
not.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's the one thing when you get images which are not necessarily crystal clear and crisp, it's amazing what people can see and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pareidolia is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we both first started to see, the only reason I knew it was a waterfall is that I know Greg loves to take pictures of waterfalls. Well, I'm just, I know there's near your house, there's a nice park with some nice waterfalls. Yeah. So I know it's a place you really like to go to. If this was not you, or let's say going back to the Tiny Shutter days, Mark Sadowski, who had a waterfall near where he was,
yep.
I wouldn't know what this was. But just knowing the history, it's like, okay, yeah, I know this is a waterfall area just because Greg's history.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful picture. You get the blues, everything's kind of the different tonal values that are spread across. They all work with each other. Greg, I might take that and do a quick sketch and send it back to you and show you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a nice bright blue sky that day. So that's mm-hmm. where the blue is coming from for sure. And I found it on my phone. It was reflex I shot this with. I should have looked at the exposure, and I think it is 1/15 of a second.
Oh wow!
And so the water was moving quite quickly. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things to shoot is moving water like that for sure. So my last one here was the leaves are nice when they're on the trees, but they're also just as nice on the ground. And this is what we mean by stick season. There's hardly any leaves left on the trees, so they look like a bunch of sticks. But again, nice blue sky. This might have been that same day. I'm not sure.
That's nice. I like the leading lines of the shadows into, through the foreground subject into the background, the two trees, that right tree's on the right third. I think the composition on this is spot on.
Yes, thanks. This is down at the local park. And so in the background, off to the right there, you can see it's a big concrete area, and you can barely see there's piles of stuff there. Well, those are boards to make a hockey rink, because they make ice there in the winter, and people can go down there and play hockey. I think they alternate days. For one day everybody can go and play hockey, the next day it's just skating. No hockey games or anything, but they do that throughout the winter. And in the summertime, that big concrete pad is just for there's a couple of basketball courts there, and people just go down there and get some exercise or whatever. I should have used the cleanup tool in photos to take that one leg of a swing off the right-hand side, because I just noticed it now, and now it's kind of annoying me.
Oh, yeah.
But so this was taken with a photographic style, and I used the gold option, and I forget what recipe, I guess, is the word for it. I don't know.
It's obviously a Hive Max.
Yeah. So this one is okay. This is the image here. It's gold, and the tone is -59. The color is 80, and I left the palette at 100. So
okay,
that's going to sound like complete gibberish for anybody that hasn't used these before. But these are the different options you can have for these photographic styles. You could change the tone. You can go like low contrast to high contrast, light to dark type of thing. And then the strength of the color tones in the recipe or in the palette. And we're going to do a show on this because I think it's really cool stuff, and it's becoming somewhat popular, I think. But if you change the sliders around in the adjustment for the photographic style, it makes the photo look completely different. And it does it instantly. Like, it's crazy how it does this. But
yeah, you can set it up to where you create this particular recipe, and then the next time you open up that style, it will be the same recipe as a starting point.
yeah. You can make it remember your last setting. Yeah. But yeah, and there's always something I like about, shooting into the light like that. I might have taken the green dot out of this. I'm not sure.
Well, the 16 has gotten better because of the coatings than the 13 with handling the I mean, there's only so much they can do. As we keep on saying, you're limited with physics.
Yeah.
If you have a 6 or 7 element lens in a very small area, you're going to have issues that you don't have with a bigger lens and more space. So Apple's doing its Apple magic behind the scenes and looking for the green dot and trying to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, I did an ebook called Canopy to Carpet last year. I think it was last year or the year before I put it together, and it's on the Apple bookstore for free actually. And it's just, talking about or illustrating really, because it's all pictures, how fall season goes from the color on the trees and then down to the ground. So I call this the carpet. All the leaves on the ground are like a carpet. And I used the ultra wide and I shot this in 48 megapixels. So it actually looks pretty darn good on the phone or even on the computer, on the Mac. I'm just really liking what these photographic styles can do. So that's why I wanted to get this one in for sure, just to illustrate, I mean, it's hard to illustrate what it could do without actually doing a demo on it per se, but just it can make a good looking image with these photographic styles.
Yeah, I took one last night in Chinatown in Los Angeles of a very bright marquee with a Cinebloom filter of 20% from moment.
Oh yeah.
And then I switched it to stark black and white on the photo styles. It came out pretty good. I was going to feature that tonight, but I'll save it for, when we have that podcast.
Yeah. Sounds good. Now we're trying to, because I can edit with photographic styles in place on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, even though it was taken on the 16. And I was trying to send a couple to Dave to see if he can get it to work on Ruth's phone, because she's got the 15 Pro Max. But you said that part of the edit doesn't show up, right?
It does not show up at all.
Okay, so I'm thinking that it's because I used the iCloud photo library, and when I take it, the iPhone 15 Pro Max picks up the exact same file with everything in place. But I guess as soon as you send it to someone, like I tried sending one to my wife's iPhone 12, and again, same as you, Dave, not there. So I think
what might work, Greg, is to export it to files in an unmodified version, and then share that file and let Dave bring that in unmodified.
Okay, that's a thought. Yeah, well, I'll do that after we get off the air here. So we're gonna dive more into the photographic styles, and we're gonna try and see if we can get some way of Dave looking at them and editing it, and so he could see what we mean, and we're gonna work on that.
Well, I have when I looked at it, I have a pretty good idea of, and honestly, compared to the photographic styles they introduced years ago, the new ones are so much better.
Yeah.
And they're not baked in.
Right.
Which is so nice. I played with the photographic styles, the old ones, but the problem is it's baked into the photo. So if you want to do any additional editing, you have that layer on top you can't get rid of. And it was a lot more limited than the new ones. So if you have the new ones in the 16, the enhanced, what they call enhanced, because I did check out Apple's website when we were trying to get it to work out. And it says specifically, if you have the 16 you can do the enhanced. So it sounds like the enhanced is only on the 16 and hopefully going forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know that there's rumors out for the iPhone 17 and 18 already.
Oh.
But,
well,
Yeah.
If anything, Dave, what I'll do is I'll screencast, or I'll do a screen recording of, you know, what it could do, and I'll send you that, and then you'll be able to see, you know, how it changes the image, and I'll try to get some, you know, very different examples, like a night shot, a day shot, and, you know, different subject matter. Excuse me. So over the next couple of weeks, I'll get some to you so you can actually see how it does it. And if you ever get a chance to go into an Apple store, and they have the iPhones sitting there on display, you know, hey, pick one up and give it a shot, because it is pretty cool. I've been really experimenting with a lot of different camera systems or camera apps with, you know, mood camera, Fig, the photographic styles, and but you know, I still pick up my usual suspects, like with reflex and reheld, things like that. And I have got a little thing here. I'll put myself full screen just for a second so you can see it better. But Dale Lotherington, a friend of the show and a bloody legend in Shane Mawson's group, has made this little gadget. And what this does is you plug your phone into it, and it starts shooting 30-second night mode shots. And what you could do is, like, okay, say if I shot the Milky Way, 30-second shot, what it'll do is it'll pause for a second or two between shots, and then take another one. Pause for a couple of seconds, take another one. And then over the course of time, you can build star trails, or you can just have a time lapse of the Milky Way going across the sky. I'll dig up a couple of his Instagram posts where he did this, and I tell you, it's bloody cool. And these things are starting to sell like hotcakes. And, you know, I'm not in the millions or nothing like that, but for an Aussie bloke just coming up with this idea and putting them together, I don't know how many he sold, but he sold quite a bit. And it comes with a USB-C cable. So you plug one end into the thing, one end into your phone, and you set it up on a tripod, and you let it go for hours. And it's probably a good idea to have a charging brick there to keep the phone supplied with power. If you can do it with a MagSafe puck, that'd be even better, because you've got this plugged into your phone, so it'd be kind of hard to power the phone with a thing or whatever. But yeah, it is really cool. Now, the sad thing is I got it when I was sick, and then once I got well enough to go back to work, I had to go back to work, and then now we've had clouds and everything ever since. So I'm just waiting for a clear night where I can plug this sucker in and give it a shot.
I mean, the shots from Shane are amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shane did a video on it, so I'll put that in the show notes too. But yeah, it's a really cool little gadget. And you order it from his website. I'll put that in the show notes too. And he mails it right to your house. So and I think he just puts it through the mail as opposed to a courier, because I tried to courier something just from here to another place in Canada, and it was going to cost a sweet fortune. So it was just ridiculous. So I put it in the mail, and it got there fine. But so I think he just mails it to you, and you'll get it. There's a tracking number and everything. So, but yeah, it's a really cool little device. And I'm going to have Dale on again at some point to talk about it, because it's pretty exciting, and I know he's really excited about it too. So it's called Lumilapse. That's what he calls it. So, and it's just for, doing time lapses at night, and, just a very clever little gadget. So, all right. Well, on that note, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you very much, Dwight, for your demo. It was really enlightening. And I think, if anybody that's listening to the audio, if you're interested in that, there'll be a link in the show notes to this video that we're doing live on YouTube, and you can check it out. And I think all our socials are in the show notes. So I guess we'll call it a day and see you all in the next.
Greg, I did change my username on the Threads app.
That's right too. I'll have to fix that in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Glad you reminded me.
Yeah, but thanks, guys. Appreciate the time tonight.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for watching in the on live on the live stream and in the chat room. And Dave, I hope your body continues to heal after that.
Oh yeah, and you guys start and keep getting better with the coughing and everything else too.
Yeah, it's it's always a struggle.
Perfect.
Yeah, especially when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Okay, so I guess everybody, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining.
Take care.